I want to talk about Houston Texans head coach Bill O'Brien. I think Bill O'Brien is the next Chip Kelly of the NFL. Now, the reason why I say that is because both of these coaches had similar backgrounds, and both of these coaches got similar things. Both of these coaches were granted power of personnel decisions over the team, right? For Bill O'Brien, they had no general manager. Houston just said, bump it, we'll make you head coach and general manager because of all the success you have. For Chip Kelly, it was basically a power struggle between him and Roseman, and the Philadelphia Eagles ownership ended up choosing Chip Kelly over Roseman. Roseman got demoted into just handling the contracts of the players, and Chip Kelly got promoted to general manager, head of personnel decisions for the players and things like that due to how successful he was at this point of his coaching career. And both of these coaches, once they got in power, made bad decisions, and it eventually led to Chip Kelly's demise, and it is eventually, in my words, going to end up leading to the demise of Bill O'Brien. So let's talk about how these two coaches are similar, in my opinion. Both of these coaches were successful in college. Chip Kelly was one of the best offensive minds in college football history. Was the innovative mind behind the Oregon offense, and he ended up leaving Oregon for the Philadelphia Eagles job. And Bill O'Brien was pretty successful during his time as a head coach for Penn State football during the time that was surrounded by controversy when it came to the football program. So let's talk about Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, before he became general manager and head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, his first two seasons, 2013, 2014, went 10-6. He went to the playoffs in one of his first years and barely missed the playoffs the year prior after that. So in 2015, he became the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. And then, Lord and behold, after he became general manager, he went 6-9 and got fired prior to the last week of the 2015 season. Now, prior to the start of the 2015 season, Chip Kelly made a lot of controversial trades. A lot of trades that a lot of people, including myself, did not agree with. Now, the first trade he made was trading LeSean McCoy. LeSean McCoy was one of the best halfbacks in the NFL. He was top 3 at his position. And DeAndre Hopkins, Bill O'Brien traded him, who was top 3 at his position as well. You see the similarities. They traded LeSean McCoy, who was coming off of a season in 2014 when he had 1,319 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, was averaging 4.2 yards per carry, and a Pro Bowl, and traded him to the Buffalo Bills for linebacker Kiko Alonso. Now, at this time, I was in 5th grade. And it didn't take me long, despite how young I was. I was only like 12 years old. Or no, I was like 10 or 11 years old. It didn't take me to be a football genius to figure out that that was an absolutely terrible trade. Then, later on in March, he traded Nick Foles, who was a Pro Bowler, a 2nd and 4th round pick, to the St. Louis Rams at the time for Sam Bradford, who in 2014 played in 0 games. 0. Then he released Deshaun Jackson. So he got rid of 2 big pieces of his offense. LeSean McCoy was the perfect bat to fit his offense. He was agile, he was quick, he had a quick change of directions, he was shifty, he was fast. Got rid of Nick Foles, who was a solid piece of his system, for Sam Bradford. Although Sam Bradford had a pretty solid year with the Philadelphia Eagles that season, and released Deshaun Jackson, which, when you run the Chip Kelly offense, you need fast receivers. That's what Deshaun Jackson was. And it made no sense to get rid of Deshaun Jackson. It made no sense to get rid of LeSean McCoy. Then, what happened? He ended up getting fired. He lost the locker room. The locker room didn't believe in him due to all the personnel decisions. And when you had, I think it was an interview a year back, I think it was Lane Johnson at the time. He was interviewed. They asked him, what happened with Chip Kelly? They said that Chip Kelly was an absolutely great head coach when it came to X's and O's. He was on everything. He was a solid coach. But what ruined Chip Kelly was when he became into power. Now, let's look at Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, 2014-2016, 9-7. Made the playoffs 2015, 2016. I think that year in 2016, I believe it was, when he went to the playoffs, was his best year as an NFL coach because he won a playoff game with Brock Osweiler. That was a terrible contract. Don't know what the Houston Texans front office was thinking giving him that contract. It was a terrible contract, and despite that, Bill O'Brien was still able to find a way to score some points on offense to win a playoff game. And they almost beat New England. If you go back and watch the game, the score might not be all that close. You go and look at the box score, but you go back and rewatch that game, the game was a lot closer than what the box score may indicate. Then 2017 goes 4-12 due to Deshaun Watson getting injured. 2018, 11-5. This past season, 10-6. So far, Bill O'Brien is 52-44 as an NFL head coach. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. You can consider Bill O'Brien an average NFL head coach, or at least put him in the same discussion as a guy like a Mike Zimmer. Guys that really can't get it done in the big games. So he's an average, run-of-the-mill head coach. Now, so far, Bill O'Brien has been announced the general manager of the Houston Texans. Now, he's officially been announced the general manager a while back, but before he was officially announced the general manager full-time of the Houston Texans, he was interim general manager. And during his time as interim general manager, he got Duke Johnson in the trade with the Cleveland Browns, which really made no sense. I think they gave up a little too much. They gave up like a third-round pick. You finally got off the tackle and Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills, which was long need. I don't know why it took Houston so long to finally get off the tackle. So those moves, he also traded for Carlos Hyde, which a lot of people criticized him for because Carlos Hyde was going to end up getting released. But the thing with Bill O'Brien is that Bill O'Brien gives up a little bit too much. Now, instead of giving up a little bit too much, now since he's became the full-time general manager and the head coach of the Houston Texans, he's giving away great players for absolutely nothing. He traded away DeAndre Hopkins, an all-pro wide receiver, one of the best 3 wide receivers in the NFL, for David Johnson. Now, David Johnson was a stud back in 2016, but ever since then, he's been a shell of himself. He can't stay healthy, and he got his job took by Kenyon Drake. And they traded DeAndre Hopkins for him and a second-round pick. Let's not also talk about how prior to becoming the full-time general manager, when he was the interim general manager, he traded away Jadeveon Clowney to the Seattle Seahawks for a third-round pick. You could have gotten a first-round pick out of Jadeveon Clowney. It doesn't matter if it was a first-year rental. You couldn't have gotten a first for Jadeveon Clowney or a second, or at least a little bit more in draft compensation. You could have gotten a second-round pick and a third-round pick, and a fourth-round pick, and some other picks for Jadeveon Clowney, regardless of it just being a one-year rental. So, the demise of Chip Kelly and Bill O'Brien, which Bill O'Brien hasn't completely been a failure yet, but it's going to happen. Because here's the thing, when you give coaches power who don't deserve it, they make bad decisions. It's only a select few head coaches in the NFL that has complete control of their NFL franchise. Guys like Bill Belichick, I'm pretty sure Andy Reid has a good amount of say in personnel decisions. Pretty sure Sean Payton does as well. Those are 3 of some of the best coaches in the NFL. Then you have Chip Kelly and Bill O'Brien, who have only had a little bit amount of success. Basically a walk in the park compared to what guys like Bill O'Brien and Sean Payton have, right? And these guys get power, and they absolutely don't know what the heck they're doing. They abuse that power, and they end up getting fired for it. You see, sometimes having power is a bad thing. Too much power is bad. Having too much power can corrupt coaches. It can corrupt coaches. That's what happened to Chip Kelly. He got corrupted. He wanted to run the team how he wanted to run the team. He wanted full control. He made all these bad personnel decisions, and he got fired for it. He's no longer an NFL head coach. And look at Bill O'Brien. He's making bad trades. The Jadeveon Clowney trade was heavily criticized. Not because they gave him away, because they probably weren't going to be able to give him a long-term deal anyway. But they gave him around for a third-round freaking pick. You trade away Jadeveon Clowney for a third-round pick. Then you trade away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and a second-round pick. Just terrible trades. Some coaches are only meant to be coaches. You only get power when you proved that you are able to sustain a certain amount of success over a long period of time. Chip Kelly got power with only being the head coach of Philadelphia for 2 freaking seasons. Then Bill O'Brien has given power. I'll give it. He's made it to the playoffs basically every year he's been a head coach of Houston, but 1 year or 2 years, excuse me. But hasn't really won any big games in the playoffs. You're playing in a sorry division in the AFC South with what? Andrew Luck was injured during the time. The Jaguars were terrible, and the Titans were terrible. For a good young duration of Bill O'Brien's stint as the Texans head coach. So, the thing of the matter is that Bill O'Brien, in my opinion, is the next Chip Kelly. Too much power, doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know how to make trades and get proper compensation, doesn't know how to trade players without giving proper compensation for those players. And that's why I think Bill O'Brien is the next Chip Kelly. He will be corrupt. The Texans will not be good. Because tell me, who is the next guy up to replace DeAndre Hopkins? Will Fuller? Will Fuller gets injured every time you freaking breathe on a guy. He's a human. He's the human fragile cargo. Will Fuller can't stay healthy. Who else is going to be able to take over for DeAndre Hopkins? I don't think nobody, unless Bill O'Brien absolutely nails the draft, which I doubt he'll be able to do that. So Bill O'Brien, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is the next Chip Kelly. Let me know what you guys think about Bill O'Brien and Chip Kelly down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content, and thanks for watching.